Welcome to our Hong Kong Brief program. Today, we're diving into three captivating stories making waves in the financial world and beyond. First up, Bohai Bank, backed by Standard Chartered, is selling off $4 billion worth of non-performing assets at a steep discount, highlighting the mounting pressure on lenders due to China's property slump and economic slowdown. Next, Hong Kong's virtual bank MOX has launched a groundbreaking cryptocurrency ETF service, making it the first to offer direct trading of Bitcoin and Ether ETFs on its platform. Lastly, in a dramatic turn of events, Japan's Nikkei 225 index has rebounded with a 2.3% gain after its worst day since 1987, thanks to reassurances from the Bank of Japan on its monetary policy. Please stay tuned for more detailed coverage. Reuters breaking views: Bohai Bank, backed by Standard Chartered, is grappling with a significant burden of bad debts as it attempts to offload $4 billion worth of non-performing assets. This move highlights the mounting pressure on lenders due to the deteriorating state of property-linked loans. The bank, located in Tianjin, has been severely impacted by the region's economic slowdown and real estate slump. Last year, nearly half of Bohai Bank's loan book was concentrated in northern China, where profits plummeted dramatically. With a substantial portion of its loans categorized as problematic, the bank plans to sell these assets at a steep discount, absorbing a significant financial hit. This sale comes at a challenging time for distressed asset managers like Cinda, who are also under strain. The broader context reveals that China's banks are struggling with a massive $1.1 trillion pile of non-performing and special mention loans, making asset disposal increasingly difficult. South China Morning Post: Hong Kong's virtual bank MOX has introduced a cryptocurrency exchange-traded fund (ETF) service, marking a significant step in its mission to become a comprehensive investment and banking platform. This move aligns with Hong Kong's ambition to establish itself as a hub for virtual assets. The bank, a subsidiary of Standard Chartered, is the first to offer trading of spot Bitcoin and Ether ETFs directly on its platform. MOX's chief product officer, Jayant Bhatia, emphasized the bank's commitment to providing a safer and diversified investment avenue for customers. The bank plans to eventually offer direct cryptocurrency trading in collaboration with a licensed exchange. Despite recent volatility in the crypto market, MOX aims to offer competitive pricing and transparent risk management to its customers. With a significant portion of its clientele already engaged in crypto investments, MOX believes that crypto investing is a long-term trend and is focused on providing secure options for its users. Associated Press: Asian markets saw a mix of gains and losses on Wednesday, with Japan's Nikkei 225 index experiencing significant swings before climbing higher. The Nikkei's rise followed a sharp increase the previous day, recovering from its worst performance since 1987. This rebound was partly driven by comments from a Bank of Japan official who noted that despite a recent interest rate hike, monetary policy remains accommodative. The rate hike had triggered a sell-off as traders adjusted to higher costs for carry trades and a stronger yen. The dollar's rebound against the yen provided a boost to Japanese exporters. Elsewhere in Asia, markets like Hong Kong's Hang Seng and South Korea's Kospi showed varied performances. In the U.S., the stock market broke a three-day losing streak with significant gains, driven by strong profit reports from major companies. Despite concerns about economic slowdown and high interest rates, the U.S. economy continues to grow, and the Federal Reserve has room to adjust rates if necessary. Treasury yields also rose, reflecting expectations of future rate cuts by the Fed. South China Morning Post: Hong Kong's benchmark stocks are attempting a rebound from a three-month low, buoyed by an end to the global market rout and optimistic projections for China's export growth. The Hang Seng Index climbed 1.2% to 16,853.48, breaking a four-day streak of losses. The Tech Index and Shanghai Composite Index also saw gains, reflecting a broader recovery in global markets. U.S. stocks rebounded, with the S&P 500 rising 1%, and similar positive trends were seen in South Korea and Australia. However, Japan's Nikkei 225 gave up some of its previous gains. Companies like Tektronic Industries and Trip.com Group reported significant earnings increases, boosting their stock prices. Alibaba and Tencent also saw positive movement. This stabilization in global markets follows a week of heightened volatility driven by fears of a U.S. recession and the Bank of Japan's policy changes, which had caused the most significant market swings since 1990. Economists predict that China's exports probably grew at an annual rate of 9.5% in July, up from 8.6% in June, with imports also expected to have risen, reversing the previous month's decline. South China Morning Post, analysts suggest that the recent fears of a U.S. recession, which caused significant market disruptions across the Asia-Pacific region, were overblown and part of a necessary correction. Japanese stocks experienced their biggest one-day drop since 1987, and the Australian market was hit hard by poor U.S. employment figures. However, economists argue that these reactions are part of the adjustments needed as central banks tackle inflation. Job losses and corporate bankruptcies have been rising globally due to tighter monetary policies aimed at controlling inflation. Australia and New Zealand have seen significant increases in corporate insolvencies, and similar trends are evident in Japan, Hong Kong, and South Korea. Analysts believe these insolvencies are a result of eliminating inefficient firms that cannot survive higher interest rates, which is ultimately beneficial for economic efficiency. Despite the market jitters, central banks in the region, like the Reserve Bank of Australia, remain committed to tight monetary policies. Economists note that while there is some concern about a slowdown in the U.S. affecting Asia, many Asian economies are still seeing robust activity, with consumers continuing to spend cautiously. South China Morning Post, GCL Technology, a major Chinese solar panel materials producer, is investing 700 million yuan, $98 million in next-generation solar technology to address industry challenges of losses and oversupply. The company plans to complete the first phase of a 500 megawatts plant in Kunshan by mid-next year, focusing on solar modules that combine perovskite and crystalline silicon cells. This new technology promises higher energy conversion efficiency and lower production costs compared to traditional crystalline silicon. GCL has secured agreements with several major customers and is in talks with potential overseas partners. The new technology has shown promising efficiency in tests, but widespread commercial adoption may take 2 to 3 years due to concerns about stability. The solar industry is currently facing severe overcapacity, with many companies incurring losses. The new perovskite crystalline silicon technology, with a theoretical efficiency limit of 43%, offers a significant improvement over the 29.4% limit of silicon solar cells. Despite challenges, such as the material's susceptibility to extreme conditions, industry experts believe that perovskite technology will eventually help eliminate overcapacity and drive the industry forward. South China Morning Post. Chinese investors, driven by a sluggish domestic market and a lackluster property sector, turned to overseas investments, only to face a massive global market crash on Monday that erased trillions in value. Despite the losses, many investors plan to hold their positions, hoping for a rebound. The Shanghai Composite Index remained flat in early 2024, while the Hang Seng Index dropped 15% since May. Investors in US and Japanese ETFs were hit hardest, with 127 out of 128 Chinese invested ETFs losing value. A high school teacher from Suzhou lost about 30,000 yuan in the Huan Mitsubishi Japanicon 225 ETF, which fell over 10%. The teacher remains hopeful for a rebound in Japan's market. Meanwhile, a sweeping sell-off in Asia, triggered by fears of a U.S. recession and a rally of the Japanese yen, led to Japan's Nikkei 225 index experiencing its largest single-day drop. Despite the turmoil, some investors remain optimistic, anticipating a rate cut cycle in the U.S. and potential upward momentum for shares. South China Morning Post. Bangladeshis in Hong Kong with business ties to their home country faced significant disruptions during the month-long protests that led to the ousting of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The protests, initially against a civil service job quota system, escalated into a mass movement driven by students, resulting in hundreds of deaths. Business operations in manufacturing, trading, and hospitality were heavily impacted. Syed Mohammed Mohuddin, president of the Bangladesh Association of Hong Kong, reported that his garment factories in Dhaka and Chattogram were closed for about a week, delaying deliveries. Another businessman in telecommunications faced severe communication issues and business disruptions. Mobile internet shutdowns further hampered operations. Despite the chaos, some businessmen, like Mohuddin, remain hopeful for an improvement, while others are anxious about the safety of their families. The situation in Bangladesh remains tense, with ongoing clashes and a lack of law enforcement presence. SCMP opinion. A high-pressure system over southern China has brought Hong Kong its hottest temperatures of the year, with 9 districts reaching over 37 degrees Celsius. The Hong Kong Observatory's very hot weather warning has been in effect since last Friday, prompting calls for precautions, especially for the vulnerable elderly population. More than 1,600 SOS calls have been made by elderly residents seeking relief. There are calls for energy subsidies for those in cramped subdivided homes and for care teams to visit high-risk groups. Heat shelters have been opened by the Home Affairs Department. Authorities advise staying hydrated, limiting heat exposure, and venturing out during cooler parts of the day. Heat stroke remains a risk, and the health impact is significant, with researchers linking heat waves to over 1,600 excess deaths in the past decade. With climate change causing rising global temperatures, it's crucial to take care of oneself and look out for vulnerable neighbors during extreme heat. South China Morning Post. The excitement generated by the medal-winning feats of Hong Kong's star Olympians has not abated, as they return to a hero's welcome. Fencers Chung Ka-long and Vivian Kong Man Wai both struck gold, while swimmer Siobhan Haughey became the city's most decorated Olympic athlete, with 2 bronze. They deserve all the plaudits they have received. But with Hong Kong's medals won and the Paris Summer Games near conclusion, attention must now turn to the future and how to maintain the momentum. Success should breed success. There is no room for complacency. Chief Executive John Lee Ka-chiu has pledged further government support. Funding for the Hong Kong Sports Institute, which oversees top athletes, has increased 45% since 2018-19 with 863 million Hong Kong dollars, 111 million US dollars, invested in 2023-24. But as more taxpayers' money is spent, the need for transparency, accountability, and improvement also grows. Expectations are much higher. The community, which rallies behind its sports stars, is entitled to value for money. There will be a review of Hong Kong's Olympics performance, which should help the public better understand in which sports young talent is to be found, so that future medalists can be groomed. There is a need for a more scientific and strategic allocation of funds. A broader review of the governance and operation of the city's sports associations is due to conclude this year. It is to be hoped the report will provide a frank assessment of where improvements can be made. New ideas and some new faces would be welcome. Hong Kong has benefited from the individual brilliance of its medal winners. But the city must now develop a new generation, especially with Kong taking a break from fencing after 20 years and Haughey considering her future. There is a need to review the criteria for funding elite sports, little changed in 2 decades, to consider how money can be better spent, to ensure that athletes with potential are identified and provided with all the support they need to succeed. Further improvements are needed for coaching, training, and in creating an environment in which talented athletes can flourish while building a stronger sporting culture in the community. Better facilities also are required. A new fencing venue has been promised and improvements made to the Sports Institute's training center in Fo Tan. But more is needed elsewhere, so that aspiring stars of the future can break through. Hong Kong is reveling in winning medals in successive Summer Games for the first time. The drama and glory has the city buzzing. But much work will be needed to sustain, let alone improve, on the performance. As Bohai said, the Olympic journey is a long one and this is just the beginning. South China Morning Post. Ah, the blissful dawn chorus of the Hong Kong taxi driver as they go honking and revving their way around the city, not the greatest sound to wake up to. But then you get us dropping into your inbox, with a quick recap of the night's action to peruse alongside your milk tea or semi-skimmed decaf, half CAF thing. And all of a sudden everything seems better, right? Anyway, while you were sleeping, this is what was happening in Paris. On the track, the men's 1,500 meters was supposed to be a straight shootout between Jacob Ingebrigtsen and Josh Kerr, but somebody forgot to tell Cole Hawker. The American came out of nowhere to pass Kerr on the outside and win in an Olympic record 3 minutes, 27.65 seconds. Kerr took silver in a national record 3 minutes and 27.79 seconds, while another American, Yared Nuguse, ran a personal best 3 minutes and 27.80 seconds for bronze. Ingebrigtsen, the defending champion, finished fourth in 3 minutes and 28.24 seconds. There was more American gold in the women's 200-meter, with Gabby Thomas, the bronze medalist from Tokyo, winning in 21.83 seconds. Julian Alfred added silver to her 100-meter title in a time of 22.08. Thomas's compatriot Brittany Brown took third in 22.20. At some point, the Olympics is going to realize that much like highly ranked fencers don't need to start at the very beginning of a tournament, the USA should probably just appear in the semifinals of the men's basketball. The NBA All-Stars swept aside Brazil 122-87 in their last 8 encounters and now face a test against a Serbian side boasting 2 of their own stars in Nikola Jokic and Bogdan Bogdanovic. Serbia came through a tough game against Australia, winning 95-90 in overtime. France, meanwhile, still have some skin in the tournament after getting past Canada 82-73, but Giannis Antetokounmpo's Olympics is over, after his Greek team lost 76-63 to Germany. The place to hold boxing in Paris is Roland Garros, apparently, because obviously once the precision and beauty of a Novak Djokovic ground stroke is over, the next best thing is bruised knuckles and busted noses. Still, some people like that sort of thing, and for those that do there was plenty to cheer last night, not least for the Philippines' Aira Villegas, who earned herself a bronze medal in the women's 50 kilograms. Her conqueror, Buznaz Kakaroglu of Turkey, faces China's Wu Yu in the final. In the first of the women's football semifinals, Sophia Smith scored the only goal 5 minutes into extra time to continue a dream start for new USA boss Emma Hayes, as they overcame Germany 1-0. And in Marseille, there were 6 goals and 17 minutes of time added on as Brazil beat Spain 4-2. After the highs of Quan Hongchan's gold and Qin Yushi's silver in the women's 10-meter platform, 2 other Chinese athletes had their turns to stand on the podium. China's Zhao Jia won bronze in the women's hammer throw with a distance of 74.27 meters. Gold went to Canada's Cameron Rogers with a throw of 76.97, while the USA's Annette Etchikunwoke hurled a season-best 75.48 to take silver. And in Greco-Roman wrestling, which we don't really talk about that much, if at all, Chao Ligua took silver in the men's 60 kilograms final, losing to Japan's Kenichiro Fumita. South China Morning Post. When thinking about Hong Kong's nightlife, the city's abundance of bars and clubs might be the first thing that comes to mind. But if you know where to look, there's another fascinating type of nightlife to be found in the city, that of Hong Kong's native nocturnal animals. Indeed, the city's reputation as a buzzing metropolis has long belied its rich biodiversity, and now, with summer in full swing, the Kadoorie Farm and Botanic Garden, KFBG, has brought back its popular night walk program to give urbanites the opportunity to discover the range of nocturnal wildlife that exists within its 148-hectare, 365-acre conservation area in Tai Pa, in the New Territories. Aside from the prospect of seeing frogs, snakes and birds, the walk, depending on the night, also holds the possibility of a porcupine sighting and hearing the calls of barking deer. Held twice a month from May until November every year, the night walk is the successor of KFBG's Night Safari, which originated in the early 2000s. In the early days, when I was exploring the center with now Chairman Andrew Macaulay, we were just kind of looking everywhere, says Gary Ades, head of KFBG's Fauna Conservation Department. We were going up the small paths, walking around, looking at places that could be turned into some kind of education feature. Ades quickly realized that the conservation area, with its abundance of wild animals and birds, was the perfect place to introduce nature to city dwellers in a safe and accessible way. So he planned a night safari, held higher up in KFBG's hills, as an educational program mainly tailored to students. However, although the hills offered a better chance of viewing barking deer, wild boar, leopard cats, and civets, Ades felt that the noise and pollution from moving the visitors to the hills by shuttle bus was not ideal for the animals. So, in 2017, he and the KFBG team came up with the Night Walk, a regular monthly program that instead focused on the farm's lower area. We tried to show the visitors the nighttime story of animal and plant interactions, Ades says, explaining that the walk does not focus solely on animals or plants, but rather on the area's ecology and biodiversity as a whole. For example, a guide might invite visitors to look at specific flowers that are pollinated by moths, bats, and other nocturnal animals. The night walk experience begins at the Kadoorie Farm bus stop. To get there, visitors can take the MTR to Tai Wai Station and then hop on a 64K bus towards Yuen Long, West. Once night walk participants have alighted at the farm, KFBG's guides will bring the entire group to a seating area, where they will give a brief introduction to its nocturnal animals, such as flying foxes and leopard cats. As Hong Kong's only government-authorized wild animal rescue center, KFBG also conducts animal releases and, depending on the day, participants might experience a snake release at the beginning of the night walk. Throughout its 30 years of operation, the Rescue Center, which celebrated its anniversary this July, has rescued more than 70,000 animals, Ades says. Of course, snakes come to the rescue center, and why not release one in front of the public, so they can learn about the rescue work and also see an animal actually going free? We want to try to make sure people don't feel that everything is in a cage, that they know that a big part of our work at KFBG is actually rescuing and releasing native animals. Once the walk is underway, there is no telling which animals participants will encounter. To ensure that the animals are not frightened, visitors are asked to use red light torches. As most of the mammals are colorblind, only guides are allowed to use white light. During the walk this Post reporter joined, on a balmy June evening, everything from frogs and lizards to fireflies and newts were spotted. One of the first sightings was of a Hong Kong cascade frog, which KFBG conservation manager Yang Jianhuan easily scooped into his hands, not to be done by amateurs. He explained how the species, unlike many other frogs, has webbed toes with suction discs, allowing it to navigate slippery rocks. Other species seen on the walk included a Hong Kong newt, an Asian common toad, a brown tree frog, and, easily the highlight of the night, a bicolored stream snake, which has a dark gray-brown stripe along its length and a yellow stripe on its lower half. It's not a common species to see, Aide says. Normally they stick to the stream, so they live under the rocks and hide a lot of the time. Aside from amphibians and reptiles, visitors will also get the chance to see other creatures, such as Swinhoe's white-eyes, birds that sleep in pairs high up in trees. I think that visitors are fascinated by the sleeping birds because nobody thinks about where birds go at night, Aide says. Just being able to see them sleeping at night is quite interesting. If visitors are lucky, they might also encounter a particular spiny rodent. Although we can't see many mammals, because it's quite low down on the hillside, occasionally we get to see porcupines, he says. It's also an animal which has had a hard time in South China, because it's been sort of overexploited for food. It gets bred on farms now on the mainland, or it used to be, and many forests in mainland China now do not have any porcupines. So Hong Kong has got quite a healthy population, which is really good. There's nothing better than getting people who've just come from the town to stand in the dark and just listen to nature. One day maybe we can reintroduce porcupines to other parts of southern China, because they are doing so well in Hong Kong. Other than sightings of wild animals, the night walk also encompasses visits to certain enclosures within Kadoorie Farm, such as those housing its black kite, crested goshawk, striated caracara, and barn owl. These birds are kept in captivity because they have either been injured previously, or confined or domesticated for too long, rendering them unfit for release. And while Manus the leopard cat lives in an enclosure because it was born in the Singapore Zoo, as does Lula, another leopard cat deemed unfit to be released, there are a number of wild leopard cats in KFBG's conservation area. A survey conducted by Yang and his team found 9 leopard cats in KFBG's space, a notably high density when compared to studies overseas. Having 9 in a small area, 148 hectares, that's much more than you'd expect for the leopard cat, Aide says. But it shows that the habitats are good, the forest is good, they can find the food that they need, and they can raise their kittens on our hillsides. Ultimately, the goal of the night walk, as well as Kadoorie Farm's many other programs, is to connect people with nature and educate them about the biodiversity of Hong Kong. There's nothing better than getting people who've just come from the town to stand in the dark and just listen to nature, Aide says. The more people that come here, of course, the more they start to understand what we are doing, and how our work is connected with native biodiversity, and also protecting local species. He notes that KFBG is open all summer long, and invites visitors to discover its biodiversity at their leisure. We get quite a lot of visitors in the autumn, but we're still open all summer. Although it's hot, you're not in direct sunlight all the time when you visit. There are lots of themed areas where you can go indoors and learn about reptiles and learn about the local animals like the barking deer and bats. South China Morning Post, Danielle Bush and her husband's journey into the world of mead began with a failed attempt at making wine and a fascination with medieval-themed shows like Vikings and Game of Thrones. Mead, often misunderstood as a syrupy sweet drink, is actually a versatile beverage that can be light, dry, rich, or even savory. The ancient drink, which predates beer and wine, has seen a resurgence thanks to modern meaderies like Batch Mead in California and Citabrew in Hong Kong. The latter capitalized on the pandemic to explore mead due to complications in beer production. Mead's appeal lies in its diversity, with variations influenced by the type of honey and additional ingredients like fruits, spices, and even sea salt. This versatility has led to innovative flavors and uses in cocktails, making mead a contemporary drink with a nod to its historical roots. South China Morning Post, in Hong Kong, fewer students have secured university placements through the Joint University Programs Admissions System, JUPAS, this year, with only 39.8% of the 39,634 applicants receiving offers. This decline is attributed to more students meeting the minimum entry requirements, leading to increased competition. The new subject, citizenship and social development, replaced liberal studies and has a higher success rate, which has contributed to the increased number of students meeting the minimum marks. Despite this, prestigious programs like the medical school at the Chinese University of Hong Kong continue to attract top scorers. The new syllabus focuses on national security, identity, lawfulness, and patriotism, differing from the previously graded liberal studies. The higher success rate in the new subject indicates a shift in the educational landscape, affecting university admissions and student aspirations. South China Morning Post, Venus Williams, the 7-time Grand Slam champion, was recently seen enjoying a yacht trip in Italy with actor Andrea Preti, sparking romance rumors. Preti, who transitioned from modeling to acting, has a diverse career in the entertainment industry, having written, directed, and starred in several films. His hobbies, as showcased on Instagram, include free diving, scuba diving, and meditation. Preti was previously linked to tennis player and model Susanna Giovinardi, but they appear to have parted ways. While Williams and Preti have not confirmed their relationship, their cozy appearance together has fueled speculation. Preti's multifaceted career and adventurous lifestyle add an intriguing dimension to the potential new romance in Williams' life. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.
Got a question in your mind, we'll find the answer, we'll be kind. Encyclopedia on everything, laugh and learn with the zing, zing, zing. From ends to outer space, we've got the facts in one great place. For kids and grown-ups too, we've got the A to Z for you. Got a question in your mind, we'll find the answer, we'll be kind. Encyclopedia on everything, laugh and learn with the zing, zing, zing. From ends to outer space, we've got the facts in one great place. For kids and grown-ups too.